The actor is the blood and the breath and the tears and the sweat that the audience is connected to. If they don't have that, there's nothing. I mean, you can read it and you get something out of that, out of your own imagination of the reader, but that's not the same as it right there in front of you, as it's human. It's happening. It's sensory. It makes sounds. It has a smell. It moves. It's time, space. It's rhythms. It's everything. When we talk about realism or naturalism, for the modern actor, particularly film and television, but theater too, we have a bit of a problem because how do people understand that? A lot of directors, particularly TV directors, ask you to do less. Don't do so much. Do nothing. Just be yourself. Just nothing. Practically nothing. And even to the point in American television, it got to be where everybody whispered the lines like that, almost consistently. But that's not real. People are expressive in life, most people. And it's their particular brand of expressiveness that makes them interesting. And yet, you want it to be real. So let's make a kind of definition here. This style of doing less and being minimal, let's call that naturalism. It has the appearance of being natural. That doesn't mean it's real. So let's call what we want realism, which is organic. It is really talking, it is really moving, it is really behaving on your real impulse all the time. Naturalism is a style that looks like realism a bit, but isn't. And this is a problem, and if you go back in with the method, and a lot of people want to train in the method because they think it's going to make them real or natural, whatever it is they think they want. The idea of the method wasn't to be just natural, it was to be full, expressively, to be real. And this was approached in different ways by different masters of it. So you had Strasberg, who emphasized the internal work, particularly sense memory. You had Meisner, who emphasized the exchange between people here and now and how that affects you, so that if the other person says something differently or does something differently on this take than on the next take, I will respond differently. It won't be the same. And there was also the idea of how to make the actor important, the charisma, the size, the greatness. The exemplar of that was Marlon Brando. And it's a great example because nobody was more real than Marlon Brando when he was at his best. He was completely organic. And yet there's something about his performances that have an enormous size to them, an enormous scope, an enormous importance. So he had everything. He responded in the moment like a great Meisner actor. He was extremely internal as a Strasberg, and then like Stella Adler, who was really mostly his teacher, she insisted on the greatness, the size, the power, and he certainly had that. He had all those things going simultaneously. It was a shock when he appeared in film the first few times. People were not ready for that. A lot of old style actors said it was they were going to ruin the profession, because one never knew what he was going to do next. Other actors had this quality: Montgomery Clift, James Dean, Geraldine Page, and it revolutionized American acting. And remember, he started, and really all of them started on the stage. So it also revolutionized the theater. Um, but American theater has always had a kind of second string British quality to it. They even invented an accent that they call Mid-Atlantic, which when you think about it is extremely ridiculous. There's no one in the Mid-Atlantic there's nobody that speaks that way, only some fish, There's just ocean there. It's not how the British speak and it's not how Americans speak. So what is that? Well, it's our way of being classical. Well, it's not as good as the British way of being classical because that's what they really have. They really have that. So, of course, they're going to do that better. It doesn't mean the Americans can't do it as well or better. It just means we have to do it in a way either to become British, if you're doing most of Shakespeare, for instance, or Bernard Shaw, or Noel Coward, or you can be American, but you better find your own way of doing it that's authentic, absolutely authentic, and it will work. For instance, the best Shakespeare actors today are not British, they're from the Caribbean. They have the voices for it, whether they're French Caribbean, Spanish Caribbean, or English Caribbean from Jamaica. They actually understand what the speech is in Shakespeare much better than the British do. The British try to make it now more American, like they think they're going to be more natural. But that's not what Shakespeare intended. It has to be real, but it has to be really a prince, for instance, from Denmark in the Middle Ages. That's different than some guy on the street, talking about sports or something. It's a different thing. So you have to find both. That's the thing, is people want to find one or the other. No. You want to find both simultaneously in the same person and train in that so much that you are that character.